Good. You're awake. I tried to respond, but what came out was something like a cross between a cough and static. For God's sake, that sounded like a voice synthesizer having a breakdown. Freud put down the tablet, leaned forward, and rested his arms on the desk or table or whatever. Please keep trying. It can take a few attempts for the guppy interface to mesh. I considered what he'd said. It immediately brought up 3 points. Point 1, I wasn't dead. Well, okay, I think therefore I am, yada yada. Call that one proven. Point 2, I wasn't good as new. In fact, I appeared to be speaking through a voice synthesizer, but doing so by mental control, which meant, point 3, that the technology had advanced significantly since I'd been hit by the car. How long had I been out? And what the heck was a guppy interface? I tried again, concentrating on forming the words. Someone want to fill me in on what's going on? Freud clapped his hands once. Excellent! I am Dr. Landers, Bob. I will answer any questions you have, and I will help to prepare you for your new life. New life? What's wrong with my old one? I already don't like where this is going. Dr. Landers pulled the tablet over so that it was directly in front of him. So, Bob, what's the last thing you remember? A car coming right at me. I was sure it was going to hit me. I'm pretty sure it did. It did indeed, Bob. You arrived at the hospital in critical condition with a very poor prognosis. Per your contract with Cryo Eterna, they were standing by with a cryo container when time of death was pronounced. Well, good to know my money wasn't wasted anyway. So what year is it? Dr. Landers laughed. So nice to talk to a subject so quick on the uptake. It is June 24th, 2133, and we are currently in New Handeltown, which would have been Portland in your day. I was surprised by that. So that's 117 years. Wait, where did that come from? I'd always been able to do math in my head with no effort, but it normally required me to at least go through the calculation steps. This answer had arrived as if spoken in my ear. Something to investigate later. Add to to-do list. I turned my attention back to the doctor. The shirt made a little more sense now. Styles would change in 100+ years. I really wanted to get a look at that watch, though. Whose handle? I asked. Now, Bob, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I have an established script for bringing candidates up to date, and history lessons come later. So, what happened to old Handeltown? Dr. Landers smiled and shook his head in mock sorrow. I sighed and nodded. Well, I tried to nod. My field of view didn't move, so I had control over my eyes, but not my head. I was starting to suspect some kind of locked-in syndrome. Instead, I grunted. Right. So, can we talk about how much of me is still human? This artificial voice thing tells me that you haven't been able to make me good as new. How much is Borg? Should I ask for a mirror? Or would that be a bad idea? Dr. Landers glanced down at his tablet and hesitated, then looked back at me. It would be inaccurate to compare you to a Borg. If I remember my Trek trivia correctly, they are at least partly human. I think Mr. Data would be a better comparison. I simply stared at him for what seemed like forever. My mind was blank. I couldn't seem to form a thought. Finally, I found my voice. Excuse me? I noted almost in passing that I still wasn't having a panic attack. For the first time, I suspected I knew why. You, Bob, are what most people would call an artificial intelligence. Although that's not strictly accurate, You are a copy of the mind of Robert Johansson, created by scanning his cryogenically frozen brain at the subcellular level and converting the data into a computer simulation. You are, essentially, a computer program that thinks it's Robert Johansson. A replicant.